welcome back to the GaryCon live stream with me, Michael from Pen and Paper Info from Germany, and the second program point on our list. And as before, I'm joined by my dear Janosch to support me for the second round. Hello and welcome.
Sounds like I'm a species. Wonderful Janosch in the wild open.
In the wild open, the wild animal approaching the stream. Thank you for joining. And also, thank you for joining and worth supporting is the next project from the Sushi Roll team. And we have our dear guests, Lucas and Nicola. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
You can call me Nick.
Awesome. Chaka.
Hello, guys.
Cool. Thank you for having you guys. And you two want to talk a little bit with us about Must Be a Dragon. And I would like to start with a request for you guys. And that is, right, introduce yourselves. Who are you and what are you doing in the world?
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Luca. I am the Italian. I work with Nicola and other amazing guys in the Italian project of a publishing house, a publisher that works on Italian localization of RPGs that are published in other language, such as Spy, for example, because I know that you speak about it in your channel. And we work on localization of foreign products, but we decided to create a new publishing house, a new publisher that works only in international projects. And we made some projects such as Must Be a Dragon, and we will speak about it next questions.
Cool. I didn't know that you do Spire in Italian. So that's one of my favorite RPGs. So wow. I didn't know. Cool. Awesome. Cool that you're here. And I got the first question for you guys already on the making. So how or what's Must Be a Dragon, the system we are talking about, all about? So what is it? What do we expect, or what can we expect with it? Tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, Must Be a Dragon is a masterless RPG. This new trend of RPG that is growing and is very interesting. And we decided to publish and to invest on this project because it is very interesting. It is a masterless RPG set in a Napoleonic Europe where dragons exist. And so you can play as an explorer that has to find a dragon in this Europe, passing between Egypt, France, Italy, I don't know, all the Europe. And so this project is built about around this idea, the searching for a dragon, and you play as a researcher or a student that is looking for the traces or information about the dragons, and at the end of the game you can find it.
Cool. So just got a question running in my mind. The typical role player is going to think I need to kill the dragon, right, and to loot and all the things. So how did you come up with the idea not to do this and to approach dragons in this style and fashion?
I think I can answer that. So my name's Nick, as you said, and I work as a game designer, and I also work on adaptations for Luma. So the thing with Must Be a Dragon is, while we noticed that well, not exactly the niche, but the genre of masterless and proper RPGs is growing, because they're usually really quick games you can set up and play in one night with your friends and start and end an adventure in one night. The thing is, most people that play these games are either really experienced players or completely new players. So what was kind of the crux of building the game to be actually playable for everyone was to balance how much information got to new players and how much we had to steer experienced players from what they already knew about role-playing games. And this is one of the questions, is like, we have to make sure people understand that the dragon here is not just an enemy to be killed, but is the key to exploration and history building. So we made sure of that by building the game through a set of questions that the players have to answer to build a story. So how the idea came about of how the dragon is not the enemy is that we kind of wanted to destroy the preconceptions about dragons. The first thing we did is we made the dragons something actually natural. It is kind of a the frame of Napoleonic Europe we built sees the dragons through the lens of scientific exploration of what the dragons are and so on. So we actually wanted to uproot the idea of this dragon as the supernatural monster and so on. And the idea of making it not an enemy, or even, well, possibly an enemy, but not usually an enemy, but just a part of nature, part of history, came out naturally out of that, of taking this approach of, if dragons were real, would we see them as something just absolutely incredible and possible, or would they become part of the human notion of nature, like thunderbolts and such?
Okay. So a follow-up question by me: why the 1800s? Why not now? Why?
Yeah.
Why that time frame?
First of all, an important detail, because the author of this game, Andrea Carbone, is following us now. So hi, Andrea. And he is a doctor. So his original idea was that to create an atlas of dragons with all the details about their body, and the details of their specific features. And so he loved this concept of studying dragons, of finding dragons, and not finding them, referring to the previous question about the idea of Napoleonic. It was interesting because it is unique as idea. Is a setting that is not so used in RPG, and because all the setting area of the core book is made by letters that the various characters send them us. So you can read the story of Irene, that is the main character of the setting, through the letter of the universities where she studies, or where she meets a professor, or she made a journey. So the letter is good, is fine, sweet well with this period, and so the idea was very interesting. And in this letter you can find some details about Napoleon and the French Revolution with dragons inside. So the story changed a little.
Yeah. I can imagine that the technical background was also a reason, right? I mean, exploring dragons with the weapon of smartphones and stuff isn't that exciting, right?
Sure, it could be very different. And we have an important artist that create this effect, not so modern, a bit brushy. So this period and style of the artist match well together. So the idea is good for us.
Yeah. And I would like to take the chance and ask the chat if they have any questions in while we are talking. So if we have time, we can ask the both of them your questions. So don't hesitate and type in your questions in the chat, and we'll make sure we'll answer them appropriately, I guess. All right. I got a question about this system. Must be a dragon. How does exploring dragons and the world and all the things. How does it work system wise? So how are the mechanics of the system?
So the systems are, well, it's not exactly free flow, but because we have like turns of narration, there are no battles and such, but we kind of created a way for everyone to.
I can hear him, yes.
So can you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Maybe a little bit volume is going down, right? Just barely, the chat says.
Can you?
Yeah, the volume of Nicola.
Yeah, the volume, right? It's working. Oh,
Great.
the volume is still a little bit down.
From Nicola.
Yeah, right.
Do you hear me?
We can hear you, but barely. So we.
Oh, better now?
No.
Nope.
I don't know what's going on then.
And you have to scream at us.
Yes, just a little screaming will help.
Be closer to my microphone, and you should be able to hear me better.
Yeah, I think this. I think the microphone has changed. So the settings have swapped, I guess. Maybe that's a problem.
Let me try one thing. Do you hear me now?
We hear you, but just barely. Didn't change.
So I think Luca can answer, and I try to figure this out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. About mechanics, Nicola, when you're ready, tell us. And about mechanics, we have some scenes, 10 scenes, and in every scene you have some questions to answer. All the players at the table play the same explorer, so there is only one character, and all players describe his background, describe their work and what this character is. And they, answering to all these questions, build the story and the adventure of this explorer.
So I think you can hear me now.
Yeah,
now it's perfect. Awesome.
Okay.
I don't know.
Technique.
And I stop this. I conclude this part. Then I pass the word to Nicola that worked a lot on mechanics with Andrea and other guys. I have to specify everything because okay. And so through this answer, you can create the story. Every character reply to one answer, and then they turn. So you cannot decide what the other decide. So you can't explain what is happening, but there are some mechanics where you can change the replay of them, so you can rebuild the story if it's going in a direction that is not interesting for you. Obviously, it's not a game where the players are one versus the other, but they have to cooperate in the creation of a story. But there are some scales token that you can spend for these or for other effects. So there is an interaction in creation of the story. And there is only one rule that is that at the end of the journey you have to find a dragon. So at the end of the adventure, the last question, the last scene is about the meeting with dragon.
Yeah, it would be a bummer if you don't find the dragon, right?
Well, yeah. Although to tie in with something you said about a different setting, like dragons will be weird to deal with today's technology, with cell phones and media stuff, and doing research on them with modern technology will be different. We we give the option to do something like that. We give the option to, we give tools to think about different settings and different time periods for playing the game. And one of the ideas we throw in is sometimes a dragon is not actually a dragon, but is a concept that you can treat like someone in the Middle Ages or in the 1800s would treat a dragon. So that's something interesting to think about. We give a few ideas in the rule book.
That's cool. So like the mythical imagery of a dragon, right?
Yes, the concept of a dragon, some elements of a dragon, like greed in the modern world. You can think of something or someone in the world that can be a dragon in that regard. Really greedy, really powerful.
Yeah, that's cool. That's
yeah.
nice
I'm not going to say
imagery.
names of companies.
Sure. All right. You mentioned GM-less gaming, right? And playing one character in specific, like every player is controlling, so to speak, one character. What do you think is the most challenging thing about GM-less gaming and playing one character in specific?
So yeah, one thing, one different balance we had to think about is power dynamics between players, which means even if everyone is controlling the same character, there always is some kind of power imbalance, because if someone playing is more charismatic than others, they're probably gonna they're gonna have a leading role in controlling what the character does, is gonna make more, brash choices, more important choices. So one way to balance that is what Luca said. We have subtle ways that one player can use to influence the turn of another player without overcoming, their agency. So that's one thing we had to think about. And I think that was mechanically, one of the hardest things to balance, because there aren't many mechanics in the game. And actually, Andrea just pretty much gave us to review and adapt a complete system that worked on its own, was already pretty much complete. We really had to fine-tune different aspects of it, but was actually really already fine as a game. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, the key to balancing such a game is to bring everyone in on the action at every moment, or at least giving them the possibility to. Because sometimes you hear someone say something, leading the story some direction, and you just have the right idea for what they just said. And in this game, you can actually say, hey, what if is actually a key to this game. Is what if something like this happened? What if we started from some place that had this kind of setting? So that's it. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
Cool.
What if?
What if? Janos, got a follow-up question.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw in a question. It's more like you deviate from the traditional RPG idea with the GM-less system, but also I understand there's not much dice throwing.
Yeah, there is no dice throwing at all.
Okay.
It is a propless game. You just need a blank sheet of paper and a pencil or a pen, even a pen, and you can play. And that's why we think we wanted to think a lot about new players, because new players are perfect for this game, because you don't need to have stuff like miniatures and dice and stuff. You want to start your first RPG session ever, you can just pick up Must Be a Dragon and play. So yeah, absolutely propless. You can bring in props. There are elements like the scale points we were talking about, and you can create a physical token for that, or you can print one out. We might give, I don't know, do we have any actual image for the scale tokens yet?
They can find they're available on our Backer Kit page, so you can find them there.
Okay, there you go. We have them, but they're not necessary to play. Absolutely, it's just a reminder you have the points.
Yeah, and there is the first player token too, and the sheet, so where to write the answers to every question. we have created an alternative design for Kickstarter, so you can find a sheet with maps of ancient exploration. So so there you can write what happens in every scene, because there are a lot of details, a lot of things that happens. A journey can be of 10 years too, so it's not a short period if you can decide. And then about this, you can link more games, so you can create a campaign mode after the single session. So you can after the meeting with Dragon, that is the final phase of the game, you can create another game that can link it to it. Then we have extra questions, such as the question about the things that can happen in particular case. And there are a lot of extra that you can add or not add to your adventure. And an important thing about what Nicola was speaking about is the importance of setting. The questions are full of examples, but they are not linked to the setting. So you can use that structure of questions, and you can play in the setting that you want. And in the core book, there will be a chapter about some ideas to play in other settings, such as cyberpunk or sci-fi or different type of settings. So you can create your idea of dragons in the different culture or in different dimensions where you are playing.
Awesome.
Okay,
You
so
got me
it's
with
not
Cyberpunk.
it's not only open in system-wise, theme-wise, I'd say, but also time-wise. So you can play in campaign over X years.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I like to think about this game as the perfect vacation game. You take a holiday somewhere, and you pull it out, and you have everything you need. And you say, what if in this beautiful place we have found, if this like building we are visiting, here we meet the dragon. So we can play a session right now about this place, and weave a story about here.
Awesome.
That's so cool.
I imagine, so in my experience, I've met people from all experience levels in role playing, and my feeling is that people are struggling the most with the storytelling and fusing with the character and immersing with the character. So I think you guys did a really great job in designing your RPG, because you're assisting each other, right? The players are assisting each other with one character and tell the story collaboratively, right? So that's a big point, I would say, that Must Be a Dragon, yeah, where it is special, right?
Yeah.
But
So
I would like to dig a little bit deeper. What do you guys think is the most special about Must Be a Dragon in every regard? Like, what do you feel is the most cool thing about it?
Okay, so when I think about designing role-playing games, or when I explain role-playing games to people that have never played before, I say, so there are no winners or losers, because the objective is to tell a story. Even if your characters die, that's the story you're telling, and if you told the story, you're successful. That's it. If you had fun while telling the story, that's amazing. And Must Be a Dragon is that to the nth power, because the characters, it's kind of meta narrative, because yes, everyone is playing the same character, but you're not just playing as the character, you are playing as the story, because everyone has a part in building the backstory of the adventure, the environment, the secondary characters and so on. So it's as if the story is a character in itself and everyone is playing the character. So you are building the story in every aspect. And I think that's the thing about not having a game master, because the game master usually directs the adventure in some way or another. Might be more railroading or more sandbox, but he has the keys to every door of story building. While in a masterless game, we wanted to use this potential of everyone creating not just the actions of the character, but everything he has around and in his past and his future. Their past or future, sorry. So we wanted to maximize freedom, narrative freedom.
Yeah. We from Pen and Paper Info are very specialized in story told games, right? So we do like them a lot. So that to an extent is a pinnacle of storytelling, right? And even characters dying is a story element, right? So all you Cthulhu fans out there, you don't have to worry to let your characters die or your investigators. So
just make them die in a fun way.
In a fun way, right? Okay. If dying can be a fun thing, right?
Yeah.
Cool. I would like to ask a question about the end of the story, really. So, how does a encounter with a dragon resolve in your game? That would be an interesting point.
Yeah, the last part about the previous question that links to this. The idea is that you can, if you read the setting, you can find as is important for these characters to find the dragons because they are researchers, they are people from university. They want to know more about these creatures because they lives behind in the mountain, not they not attack the human. So it is a way to describe a dragon different from the thing that we know from other RPG. The idea is to give a message that if you want really something, if you insist in something, you can finally find it. This not means that the final encounter will be a good moment. It can be dangerous. It can be not not a good end. No? But in that moment, the question that you find in the last scene are interesting because they are so wide that the reply to them can give the sense to all the journey and can happen everything because the dragon can take an object or something that was of someone. The dragons can hide a secret. The dragon can to speak with people or with who are looking for them, or they can have some surprise that can be described only by the players in the game. But the difficulty was to create questions that can include all the possibilities to create some stories all different.
Yeah, I think what we wanted to do is to make the players think of the dragon not as an impending conflict, but as a conflict resolution tool. So, and that's in the widest possible sense, as in inner conflict the character might have. Like, I need to know something that happened 200 years ago. Only the dragon was alive at that time. So the dragon will help me understand what was going on. Or, societary conflict. Like, something is happening, and I want to ask the dragon if he wants to help us solve the conflict. So the dragon is not necessarily a problem, might be the key to solving the problem.
Damn, that's deep.
Thank you.
That's cool. Wow, I just really love the storytelling elements of role playing games. So in order to understand the dragon, it can have so many facets. I have like 10,000 images running through my brain right now, just imagining what the dragon could be and what this story resolution could be. Right?
Yeah, and
awesome.
That's what we want to do with the game. We wanted this game to teach even new players how to actually improvise storytelling, which is a key to role-playing games.
Sure, yeah.
Because sometimes when you play a character, you don't think about improvisation as a tool to bring the story forward, because you have tasks. I have to do this, so I have to use this power. I have to do this, so I have to speak to this person. But when you don't have that, you don't have tasks, you just have to build a story, you are free to improvise and create and free your imagination.
That's so cool. Just nerding about it right now. Sorry, guys. That's so cool.
Thank you.
Speaking of the improvisation, you talked a lot about the questions in your book that guide the players. Can you tell us maybe one or two little questions, just a peek inside?
Or maybe your favorite questions. How
Or
about
that-
that? Yeah.
Yeah,
Would
we
identify as hand.
yeah. I have not
Speaking about
tried.
improvising, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, there is a question, for example, about a friend that you have with you that can be an animal or that can be someone, and the question tells that in a specific moment something happened and you and that person or that animal will be not more together. What happened? That this question creates a lot of narrative ideas, because the character that is living can be, you can find it after 2 years, I don't know, in another scene, or you can create some links about these and the things that will happen. For example, you can be sad for this, you can be a different character after this traumatic event, and or it can be a simple moment where you, I don't know, lost some your dog, but you can find it in the next scene. It can be a hook to create a good story. And an interesting thing about this is that some days ago, Nicola translated for us in Italian this game that I'm sure that you know, that is Ryutama.
Ah, sure. Yeah.
This is a cult RPG, Japanese, where the first aim is the journey. In this world of game, you have to create. You have all the people of this world have to make a journey in their life. And the most important thing is that in that case is the experience that you can find during this journey that is the most important, and not to find a specific object or to fight something that is the big evil monster of the mountain. And this idea creates this delicate, this intimate way to think the game. And in this game there is a lot of this nature where the relationship and where the links about the players or is very important, because they are going to create the story of the explorer.
Yeah, maybe the real dragon is the friends we made along the way.
That's what I thought about right now. That's what I thought about. So cool. Darn it. I just love it. Sorry. I just nerd about it. I have imaginations running through my head what I can do with it. So sorry, I just clouded a little bit of my imagination. Awesome. I got a follow-up question right now, and that would be thinking about who should play Must Be a Dragon in specific. I can imagine the answer, but maybe you can dig a little bit deeper into that question.
Yeah, so I can say that while building the game, we were especially focused on new players, and also something we thought about, groups where there is one experienced player that wants to teach role-playing games to newcomers. So that's something we focused about, and I think that's something that will work really well for this game. So I don't know if Luca has something more to say, but we really thought a lot about that.
Yeah, people that loves story, that loves to create, to write a lot, because you can write a lot of details. Because the game has also the solo mode the solo mode you can play in solo mode, and I'm reading. I think that there is the mode with 2 players, so you can play in 2 or in solo mode, and this can be an answer to your question, because you can play something if you are alone, and this is another way to play to experience this game.
What
Yeah,
I would
also I think the result of an adventure with this game is purely narration. So I think it might be one of the most ideal games for, like, sometimes you think, hey, we might turn our role-playing games campaign into a book or something. But sometimes, and then you think about it, and it's like, for a Dungeons and Dragons games, as an example, sometimes you have whole sessions that are just fighting. I attack, you attack, I attack, you attack. And that's not great storytelling, because there's not much to narrate about that. But with Must Be a Dragon, what you have at the end is pure story, because you have to answer questions about motivation and not just what's happening or what happened. So I think that might be ideal for someone who is, maybe some rider that is in rider's block and wants to be out of that. Might be the ideal game for them as well.
Yeah. So, I just got a question running through my head, which would be the most problematic part about beginners, in my experience, as I said, is tell a story, immerse yourself in the character, etc. Did you start your design with the collaboration aspect in mind, or did you start elsewhere about the design philosophy of the game?
The original idea was this Atlas of Dragons, and then Andrea decided to add some narrative elements to create this interaction by the players. He is an author particular. He likes the strange things or particular ideas, and so he liked the ideas to create this strong cooperation because he loves indie games or other ideas of new RPG. So it was one of the most the first ideas this to create a strong collaboration, because to create a lot of characters or more explorers could require different to create a story of this type, because there are it's more simple if they reply to the same question, and in this way.
Yeah, that's so unique. It's so simple that I can't understand why other people didn't do it, right? You know. It's a great idea. I really like that.
Yeah. So one thing about cooperation between players, one thing that I did while we were playtesting is, as a game designer, I wanted to try to do that, is trying to break the game, to give answers that
Yeah.
wouldn't, be easy to connect with the previous answers to different questions. And I wasn't able to do that. I gave absurd answers to some things, like Lucas' question about having a companion in the adventure. I created a companion which was a sentient sourdough starter batch, like the thing you use to grow bread. I did something like that, and that worked, and that became so central to the story we were telling that it became an epic companion for the adventure, and we were so sad when we had to leave him behind.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
And I was like, this is like,
Yeah.
if you want to ruin the game for everyone when you're playing, you cannot do that with Must Be a Dragon.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Things only can happen in RPGs, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great. Janos, you got any follow-up questions? You look like it.
Well,
You
taking
want
a
a recipe
great
for the sourdough?
maybe after the stream.
Yeah.
So I think we take a great bow back to your Kickstarter. You funded in October 22 and plan to release in May 23. Is it still on?
Yeah, we started after our previous experience. We learned that to launch a Kickstarter with a product that is ready, it's a good idea. Kickstarter can help you with the community, with people to update, to change something, or to learn from the suggestions of people. But if you have the idea of the game, really is important. We had the game in Italian completed and completed the playtest of Nicola, Michele, and all the other guys that worked on the game. So when we started the Kickstarter, we were ready, and so now we are ready. Now we are at the end of the March. We are ready with text in English, perfect, and we are working on the last artworks, and then we are going to print. So I think that we will be. For the last part of May, we will be ready. And in Kickstarter, on Kickstarter campaign, you can find all the details, the artwork, and on Drive-Thru RPG, we created an introductory guide for this game where you can find all the details of the game, the things that we're speaking about now here, and you can see the artworks of Alida, that is our artist, that are so you can find it for free via Drive-Thru RPG.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, and I want to point out that this artist Alida, I think it's her first work on role-playing games and this kind of style, and it's just stunning. I was
amazing,
amazed when I started drawings. I love it.
Really dig it. Yeah, I saw the images and I was overwhelmed. Yeah. It's really great. So I linked the Kickstarter campaign in the chat for you guys. So if you viewers want to check out Must Be a Dragon, you can find the link right now in the chat. All right.
You're blocked by the bot.
I'm blocked?
But I think
no, I'm not blocked.
The bot started your link.
It did?
Oh.
But I think it's very easy. Just Google how Must Be a Dragon and you get the Kickstarter.
Probably, yeah.
And just out of self-interest, is there a hardcover and may you ship to Germany?
Oh yeah, please.
Sure. Yeah, via Kickstarter you can find the button that takes you on BakerKit, because the campaign is still opened on BakerKit, and all the people that help us on BakerKit can have their name as bakers and can get the special tokens that we created only for Kickstarter campaign, and that will be not available for retail version. So it's and it is still open, so everyone that wants to help us can do it and can receive the PDF when we'll be ready, because all our games as Isola Alien Edizioni or as Sushi Roll have the PDF for free.
Cool. All right, I would switch to one question from the viewership, and Cesaya asked the question: can I still put some dice on the table just for the role-playing feeling?
There are randomic tables inside the core book, so you can use for them.
Just for the feeling, I see. All right.
We put those in just for the dice goblins.
Gotta have them.
Which I am. I have got hundreds of dice. So.
Oh, sure. Me too. I know that feeling.
I mean, technically, you could incorporate dice in how in Must Be a Dragon by the story.
Oh, sure.
Or not?
Oh, well, yes, you could.
Damn.
I mean, you can also choose to personally decide something based on the roll of a dice. You have to answer a question, and you give yourself, did this go well? Something that happened, did it go well? And you can roll a dice and determine on the roll of the dice how well that went. It's not mandatory. It's easier to play if you don't do that. But if you like dice, Who am I to
Yeah.
judge?
Yeah. Okay,
just out of nowhere, the character has a backstory in gambling.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, or
Just
he's
out
a
of
role-playing gamer.
That's getting meta right here.
Oh yeah.
I got a last question regarding your playtesting. You mentioned playtesting, and I would want to know if you have a special moment, both of you guys, that you remember were the greatest fun while playtesting or the ridiculous experiences while playing your game.
So I don't have like I cannot pick. Well,
yeah.
there are a few moments. The fact is, when I had the most fun is when the other players used something I created in the story to make it even bigger and more incredible and more. It wasn't like, oh, I had this great idea, this is great. It's when someone else picked up on what I said and made it even funnier or epic or even sad or something else. That's it. That's I think the aspect, the fact about being a collaborative game is the element that binds together the rules the most, because that's it. You have fun when people value what you say, right? And
Yeah.
that's what this game is about, is make the most out of what everyone says and tie that together with everything else.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, because when you read the list of questions, you know that, I don't know, after 2 questions is your turn. So you're waiting for that question, you are going to answering to that specific question with your idea, but when that moment will arrive, the story will be changed totally. So you have to create immediately another alternative version of what you're thinking about.
Yeah, cool. Really excited to test out the game.
Yeah.
Really excited. Cool. Janos, do you have any lasting questions burning on your heart? Dragons, burning. Get
Yeah.
that.
Wow.
Sorry.
That was really bad.
But you laughed, and that's all that matters.
Okay. Last questions? Not really. I think just for you, Micha. When are we going to play it?
Immediately when it hits. Immediately. My heart is burning for it.
Nice.
Yes. All right, you two. We would like to wrap it up because the next point on our list is getting closer. So, do you both have any lasting things you want to say to the viewership or anything you want to talk about at the end?
So yeah, I want to say, so this game was something quite different from the last big thing we worked on, which was a really dark fantasy setting called Kisarta, which we talked about last year here at Garrycon with you guys. With I don't know if it was you exactly. No, I think it was with Russ.
With Jens.
With Jens. Yes, that's true. And well, fans of that darker, more hardcore style of role-playing game might want to follow Sushi Roll on Kickstarter and social media, because we might have something coming for Kickstarter, actually.
Hint.
Oh, hinting right here.
This is the core book.
Yeah, that looks awesome. Damn.
Another cool art style.
Oh, dang it. Really love it.
Where are you finding all the great artists?
Holy hells, yeah.
Yeah. This was being for 5th edition. We created design and a style very similar to that of 5th edition. So you can find inside the artworks that are similar to the official core book of. So.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Because it's compatible with 5th edition, so we have classes, subclasses, and everything that is we love so much. So it's a bit different from Must Be a Dragon or Ryutama, but it's fine too.
Yeah, and I want to say, these artists are amazing, not just in the way they draw, but the way they can pull out new ideas. Again, new ideas from what you give them. You give them a short description of what you want to be drawn, depicted, and they make it so much more incredible than you wanted. And still, it's so adherent to what you were thinking about that they're just great. I love them. There are some drawings in there. I'll probably ask Luca for the original files to print posters of them.
Yeah, awesome. Absolutely. As I said, I was totally blown away by the artwork from Must Be a Dragon alone. So really great artists out there. Great fun.
Yeah.
So I think we got to wrap it up at this point. Really sorry about it. I wish we could talk longer about it. I'm really hyped for Must Be a Dragon. And I would like to give some last words for the viewership out there. So the last message we can give to you guys is raise the scales on your burning flame of fun, I would say. Just to end the stream. Just to end the stream on more metaphors for dragons. Thank you very much, you two. It was a great pleasure having you here, and we are really excited about Must Be a Dragon. And we hope you guys out there are too, and you can find it Must Be a Dragon and all things a sushi roll at Kickstarter or at Google. Just a link, just type it in and you'll find it. Thank you very much for watching at this point, and we'll see you guys right back at our time. Damn it!
In a few minutes.
In a few minutes, right? So just stay tuned. We got Ulysses following with Torg Eternity. So stay tuned, and we'll see you right back. Thank you guys very much for joining in and hyping us and give us a burning hot interview right here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Every November, around 1,500 visitors turn into true weekend heroes in the quiet town of Dreieich near Frankfurt, Germany. So, what are we doing? We are a roleplay convention with everything that comes with it. Game rounds, numerous exhibitors like publishers, traders, and illustrators, an extensive program with workshops, readings, and panels, and of course, a coffee and tea flat rate. And you will learn to appreciate the latter because we are open for 32 hours. If you want, and if you can keep your eyes open, you can immerse yourself in fantastic worlds non-stop for a whole weekend. With over 200 pre-registered game rounds, we are also the largest role-playing convention in Germany. But since we know that we can always improve, our team is constantly thinking about new things, such as our latest partnership with GaryCon in the US, or our online events on Twitch and Discord to which the entire world is invited. Curious? Then join us in November.
Let's see you get out of this. Blasted! This is not over. Die, die, die! This time you will fall before my might. Come on. Yes!
And welcome back, everyone. We just left off a few minutes ago with the dragons, and we are back live. Another great system, Torg Eternity, and with by my side is Michael again, who just missed his spotlight for 6 seconds.
I'm sorry.
So I took
Bad
over.
schedule right here. Thank you.
And of course, our guest, Lehman. Thank you for being here, and let's talk a bit about Torg Eternity.
Yes.
Michael.
So,
Oh.
I was like, do I answer now or not?
Well, I just take over from here. Thank you for joining in, first of all. You guys, the viewership, and you, Lehman, thank you for joining in. And as always, as before, you, the viewership, can ask us questions in the chat, and we'll try to answer them at the end, or at the end, right? So you can type in your questions right now, and we'll ask them if we have the time. Thank you again, Lehman, for joining in. And
Thanks for having
I would
me.
like to ask you the question, or propose you to introduce yourselves. What do you do in the world of TTRPGs and in general in life?
So yes, I am Lehman Crafton Jr. and I am the line line developer for Torg Eternity through Ulysses Spiel. And in my day job, I am a forensic scientist doing latent print examinations. So yes, that's what I do for my day job. I've been role playing though ever since I was a kid back in the 1980s. So I wasn't 70s original, but I was the next decade when I got into it, and just loved it and got into lots of different games. I attempted to write my own game. It's up on Drive Through RPG. It didn't get anywhere, but hey, I wrote a game. and then I did some freelance things and got into Torg. As soon as I found the original Torg in 1990, I fell in love with it, and it was always in my top #1 game. And when Torg Eternity came out, I immediately jumped on it, really liked it. And they have on Drive Through RPG, they have a Infiniverse exchange where fans can write material. And I wrote something there, and it caught Ulysses Spiel's eye, and they asked me to do some writing, and then it just boom, 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 and now I'm the line developer. So
wow, that's a cool journey.
it's the fan, works his way up. So
awesome, great.
That dream come true.
Awesome. We would like to talk a little bit about Torg Eternity, as you mentioned.
Yes.
And I was looking into it. I didn't know the game beforehand, before this interview. And I tried to wrap my head around its, I would rather say, complex ideas. And I would really, really love to hear a little bit about what's Torg Eternity all about, what's the universe, where are we headed, and stuff. Could you tell us a little bit?
Sure. So Torg Eternity, the basic setting or premise is what's called the near now. So instead of us definitely putting 2022 or back when it came out 2018, it's around now. It might be next week, next month, next year, but it's close to now. And it's an Earth, but it's not exactly our Earth. It's more of an Earth that if Die Hard was a documentary, so it's a little cinematic and action, or X-Files was, real. It's that type of Earth. And the storytelling of just people telling stories and cinema and that has filled this Earth with a lot of energy, which is known as possibility energy. And it's the thing that powers the Infiniverse. And there are beings out there, sentient people on different, and Earth, core Earth is what's called a cosm. It's like its own reality. And there are other realities out there. and there's very powerful people who want this possibility energy. But core Earth's possibility energy is so much that one of them can't do it by themselves. So the main one, he gets 6 others to come with him, and they invade Earth. And what's really interesting is that these are different realities. So things that work for us might not work for them, and things that work for them might not work for us, because it just they don't accept it. Their reality is like, we don't care if you have machine guns. They don't work in our reality. We're a high fantasy reality. So there's Isle, which is your typical high fantasy sword sorcery. Magic works there, even if it doesn't work here. So you get that cross genre, but it's not just robots versus magic. It is you're having to adapt to their realities. And the player characters are known as Storm Knights. So they're able to twist reality a little. So if I'm a mage, I can still cast my spell somewhere that wouldn't accept it, but I have a chance of what's called disconnection, which is reality says, nope, you shouldn't do it, and cuts you off. And then it brings problems and complications into the game kind of organically. So it's a really cool experience. So there's 7 invaders, as well as core Earth. So there's the high fantasy realm Isle. There is a Nile Empire, which is kind of like Indiana Jones pulp superheroes, and The Mummy, like 1999 with Brendan Fraser, The Mummy, and pulp comics, The Shadow, The Phantom, all of that type of things. So that's the Nile Empire. And then you have Pan Pacifica, which is kind of and a lot of these genres are smash genres. So Pan Pacifica is like your John Wick, your James Bond, a little more higher technology than we have, but it's mixed in with the zombie apocalypse. So, and it's very corporation and business, capitalism completely full blown. Then there is the Living Land, which invaded the United States, and they are primitive dinosaur people, Ignos. And so they're very spiritual, but technology doesn't work. So tanks go in and tanks stop working. So then these dinosaur men with spears can come around and beat up on the U.S. Army because your guns don't work, your Kevlar vests don't work, you don't work. So it just does that. Then there is the cyber papacy, which you take the schism, the French schism, where there were 2 popes. There was a pope and an anti-pope. You take that medieval church theology and you combine it with cyberpunk, and you get the cyber papacy. So things are high tech, but the organization is very a twisted Catholic type organization with a cyber pope, and they take the sins of the flesh very, very literal. So you want to replace your body parts with cyberware, and they have their own like matrix called the Godnet, so you can jack into the Godnet and explore virtual reality. Then there is Tharkold. Tharkold is the demonic side of that. It is demons, pain. It's a cross between Terminator, Mad Max, and their version of the Matrix is Kerr, which is like Hellraiser. So you have this horror element to it as well. And that invaded Russia, European Russia. And then you have the big one, the one that is the High Lord known as the Gaunt Man controls Rorsch, and that is gothic horror. So your vampires, your werewolves, nightmares, the Victorian type age, and that hit India. So it's all these different genres. So it's really cool if you have a group that somebody's like, hey, I want to play a superhero game, and another guy's like, no, I want to do fantasy, and another guy's, I want to do well, everybody can get their wish in this, and you can have a group of the Storm Knight group. You can have this mix of people that go to these different realities and try to fight off the High Lord. So there's this war going on where these High Lords are trying to take this possibility energy, and you're trying to save Core Earth, because once Core Earth has all the possibilities ripped from it, then it's just an empty husk, and then they move on to do the same thing to another place. So it's a war going on. You have cross genres. It's very cinematic. It's kind of it's broken up into scenes and acts, like either a play or a TV series or a movie. So it's just really high action, and depending on the genre you're in, you want to do things differently. So if you're in Nile Empire, Indiana Jones, things are stacking and obstacles are coming, and it's really high paced and that. But if you go to Aurora, the Gothic horror realm, then you have your investigations, because there's that horrible Gothic nightmare out there, and you have to figure out what its weaknesses are. So if you go in acting the same way as you would go into Nile Empire, you might have problems, because you're just going in, with your fist, I'm gonna beat the thing up, but you don't know the nightmare's weaknesses. So finding the weaknesses to the nightmare. So it's really cool, because you have your little chunks of different genres, and with this invasion, and then Core Earth is nice too, because it is that diehard X-Files, so it's not the boring realm, and since it's the realm that has possibility energy, Core Earth people intuitively know how to manipulate reality a little bit better, so that's their advantage, is they get by with going into these other realms. They have a little easier time with it, and they can do some cool things with it. So
Yeah.
I just love it, because it's just everything in the kitchen sink.
It just sounds like the perfect system for a group of friends who are sitting around and can't
decide on his
decide on the
genre.
system.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. That sounds so cool. I first of all,
Yeah,
props to you
his-
that you can
Here's
recapitulate.
everything.
Yeah, and props to you that you can just like tell us all about it from the top of your head. It's so much, and it's I'm hyped about it. So the most interesting part for me about it is that I thought, reading the system, that it's just right. These different realms, and they are at war, and that's all about it. But the most interesting part to me is that you lose all your powers, right? Or the things that make your universe tick, and so you have to adapt and adjust to the situation at hand, right? Or the universe or the plane where you are at, right? So
Right. So the Storm Knights, they can function normally, but they have that chance of disconnecting. And once they disconnect, then they have to obey the reality that they're in. So if I'm a elf mage and I go to Core Earth and I disconnect, well, my spells probably don't work. And then I can pick up a gun and adapt, that way. So then you have an elf mage with a machine gun, just until you and there's a chance to reconnect, but there's also a chance that you transform. So if reality hits you twice, basically, if it's, slaps you, nope, you got to be Core Earth. And then when you try to reconnect, and these use a D20, so if you roll a 1, that's bad, then you might transform to be Core Earth. So now you're an elf, but you're like a modern day Core Earth elf. Your magic's gone, your high fantasy ideas are gone, and you're using your iPhone and have your machine gun in the other hand. So that can be fun. Some people they like, and it's fine, they like having, I'm the elf mage, but other people, especially me, I like the sudden transformations of like, what am I going to be now? It's almost like making a different character. And people who love making different characters, you always have that one or two people in the group that every other game they want to be a new character or do something different. This gives them the chance to do that in the game, in the lore, instead of like, oh great, Anthony's making another character. It's a part of the game. I got transformed, and now I was living land, and now I'm Pulp Nile Empire. So it's just really, really cool.
Really cool, yeah. I got a question for you. As a fan, you may know the story. So, do you know? Because it's such an overwhelming, imaginative thing. Do you know the story? How the idea came up for Torg Eternity?
Yes, and this is interesting. Greg Gordon is the one that originally came up with the idea back in the late 80s, because the original Torg was published in 1990, is when it first came out. And it's one of those things that happens, just an ordinary thing in the day, and you're like, oh, and you come up with an RPG based off of it. He said that he went to like a dinner party with his wife, and they were, mingling, and he's a RPG person, he's a role-playing game person, and these were like bankers and accountants, and and talking to them was like talking with people from a different reality, because
Nice.
our concerns and ideas and things that are important to us are very different, than the top 1%, rich type people. And that kind of led to we can be at the same place at the same time and be in completely different realities. So that's where it came up with. And two of the core features of Torg Eternity are what is known as the Everlaw of 1 and the Everlaw of 2. And that's where you get all these disconnections and why realities can and cannot be together. So the Everlaw of 1 states only one reality can be at the same place at the same time. And that's what cuts you off. But Storm Knights, the player characters, are connected to the Everlaw of 2, which states two realities can be at the same place at the same time. So the Everlaw of 2 allows the players to have their characters go through the game, but the Everlaw of 1, every once in a while, it's more powerful. So you do what's called a contradiction, something that's contrary to the reality that you're in, and the Everlaw of 1 is like, nope, and slices you off until you can get that reconnection. So it's a neat story, and I love how I say it a lot not as good as Greg, but just the dinner party, mingling with other people and realizing they're really not in the same reality that you are.
That's a cool story. So outlandish. I don't understand. Janos, do you have a question running up?
Yes. Well, you talked about Torg being invented, in brackets, in the late 80s. What's the difference between Torg and Torg Eternity?
So the original Torg was by West End Games, and it lasted 5 years, so 1990 to 1995, and then it was bought out by different companies, and they tried to do a revision back in the early 2000s that didn't really go anywhere, and then Ulysses Spula came, and they bought the rights and everything, and then Shane Hensley, with Savage Worlds fame, he took over the development of Torg Eternity. So as an example, the original Torg was a box set that came with a source book and a couple of adventure book and a world book, and they had source books that went. And one of the cool aspects also of Torg is that you have these cards that you use. So it's called the original one was called the Drama Deck, and it had like 160 cards in it. And these cards are used. The original cards had a game master side and a player side. So the game master side would tell you, instead of rolling initiative, you flip a card over, and that tells you, do the villains go first or do the heroes go first? And then certain little things like an up means that you get to roll an extra die and add it to the. So it's a little, you're up, you're doing good, or stymied, you might be doing a little bad in it. But the cards were, if this got flipped on an initiative card, then it went to the discard pile. You didn't get the benefit. The player didn't get the benefit of their side. So with Torg Eternity, they separated it. So now Torg Eternity has the Destiny deck, which is the player's side, and then the Drama deck, which is the Game Master side. So this is initiative, and if you get into what's called a dramatic skill resolution, it's the stereotypical, you have a minute to disarm the bomb. That is based off of the card here. What problems might happen, what steps you have to go through. And then the Destiny cards are just for the players. So a player will start off with usually with 4 cards, and then they can play those cards during the game on their turn, sometimes on other people's turn. You can trade cards and things like that. So it makes the game really cooperative, because say you roll and you're just 1 or 2 points shy from hitting the monster or getting a good success or an outstanding success. If I have a supporter card, that can add 3 points to yours, so I can support you. And it really brings in a lot of cooperation to figure out what cards can be used, and it's just a really neat aspect. I know cards kind of are cards in a role-playing game. It's not a collectible, so you don't have to just go out and keep buying and buying and buying to get the, it's you buy the deck, and it comes with all the cards you need. We do have other booster decks which are more realm specific. So if I go to Isle, I might want to buy this. Adds a little flavor, but it's not necessary. The main deck, this will get you through the game. And then the other thing to add, they have Cosm cards, which is the realm that you're in, to bring out the flavor of that realm. Like I said, it's different genres. So when you're in a Rorsch, you might have a Cosm card where usually you set up a problem and then you get a benefit. So in a Rorsch Gothic Horror, there is a card that you turn off the lights. The lights go out for whatever reason. So then the monsters become more powerful in the dark, but everybody gains some possibility energy. And with possibilities, you can mitigate damage done to you. It's called soaking, and you can boost your action. You can make your rolls higher. So it's a trade-off, but it gets you into that genre. Whereas like the Nile Empire, it might have it that you defeat a foe and you have a Cosm card and you play that. Well, in comic books, the foes come back. So the foe's going to come back. You get some possibilities, but you didn't actually defeat, kill that foe. They survive and they'll come back for you. So it's a way to weave in the different genres through the Cosm cards. So they basically, with Torg Eternity, they took the original Torg, and the original Torg, each source book had its own subsystems. So it was almost like a different game for every single realm. They more codified it and made it so that it's a lot easier for the game master, because the original Torg, you as a player, if you're a Nile Empire, you just knew Nile Empire. You didn't have to know any other realms until you played a character. The game master had to know everything. So here, it's easier for the game master because there's one unifying system and not as many subsystems to go with, and it brings in that feel with the Cosm cards that weren't in the original Torg. And splitting the Drama and Destiny decks is very nice, because then the players don't look and go, oh, that would have been a great card, but it was used for initiative. So
Yeah.
it's more of like refined. It's like a second edition with a different company. So
Yeah. While talking about it, a question sparked in my head, which is, as a game master, I can imagine it's quite hard to differentiate the atmosphere every time you switch the plane or switch the genre. Do you have any tips, or is there a system inside Torg Eternity that helps the game master with the atmosphere?
So with the atmosphere, which is neat, is those Cosm cards, because the Cosm
Yeah.
cards aren't always the same. A Rorsch will have some Gothic horror type stuff
Yeah,
that you
sure.
can weave into the story. Also, with the booster decks,
Yeah.
they have during the initiative a normal card is like this,
Oh yeah, I see.
and the this is an Isle. See how there's text in the middle?
Yeah, sure.
So basically, it's the same card, but the text in the middle gives you an Isle-ish feel for it. So Isle being the high fantasy, this one has a missile weapon. Shooting your bows is a little bit better than shooting a gun, because it's Isle, it's high fantasy. They don't care about your gun. They like bows and crossbows and things like that. So it can bring out that. Also, we have a YouTube channel that just started a couple months ago, I want to say, and also as a podcast that we are getting into every realms. And when we're doing our realities, the first one is more mechanical. We have 2 parts. The first part is mechanical, and the second part is tips and tricks for the game master and the players to understand the realm and some ideas on what you might do. We also give, and we're this will come up as a later question, I think, but we're developing just a list of here's the ideas of genre. So when you're going for Core Earth, Last Action Hero, X-Files, when you're going for cyber papacy, you're like Cyberpunk, the Spanish Inquisition. You're going for Aurora, it's Bram Stoker's Dracula, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, things like that, and to give ideas for that. And then in the game masters, there will be tips and tricks on how a game master can have that different genre feel, because you do switch and you do want it to feel different. You don't want it to be just the same thing over and over, because there are these great genres, so you kind of lean into tropes.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It opens up a multiverse, right? I have these comic imaginations in my head. So every comic I ever read is running through my head right now to play in Torg Eternity.
Yes.
While we are at it, could you talk a little bit more about the systems, like how the game exactly runs? What's the soul of it, right?
Sure. So mechanic wise, there's two dice. There is a D20 and a D6. So whenever you do a test, basically a skill check test, you roll a D20, but you don't read it exactly how the die rolls. On the character sheet and on the Game Master screen, there's a bonus chart down here. So you look at what you rolled, and then it has a number under it. And since it's on the character sheet, it really doesn't take that much time to do it, but it's to get more of a bell curve than just the swinginess of a 1 through 20. And if you roll a 10 or a 20, then it explodes, and then you roll the die again and add to it, so you can get those really, really high numbers. So you roll your D20, you explode on your 10s and 20s, you get that final number, you check the bonus, you add that to the skill value, and then if it beats the difficulty number, you succeed. If you don't, then you fail. And depending on how bad you fail, or if there is a malfunction or a mishap or a disconnect, those things might happen. And then how well you go above that difficulty number for successes, you might get a good success, which adds a little more to it, and then an outstanding success, which adds even more to it. And on the die roll itself, if you roll a 60 or higher and somebody has one of these cards called Glory, then they can glory it, and it becomes a glorious event that then everybody gains a possibility, you gain a card, and then you can spread that knowledge to the ordinary people, and then you can help fight back, because it's a storytelling game. You tell the people of the world this great thing that we did, and that inspires them, and then you can fight back against the High Lord. So mechanically, it's the D20, then you look at the bonus chart. You might have cards to augment it, or other abilities, perks, which are kind of like feats that can augment it. So you take into all those account, figure out how much you missed or beat the difficulty number by, and then you can go from there. So the bonus chart at first seems a little complicated, but it's not. It's just on the character sheet. You look at it and you go with it. So, and then the D6 is for damage. So your weapon will have a base damage. So on a standard success, it might be a 14. So you do 14 damage. If you get a good success, then you roll 1d6 and you add to it. If you get an outstanding success, then you roll 2d6 and you add those dice to it so you can get it. And then, of course, because exploding dice are fun, if you roll a 6, it counts as a 5, but then you re-roll and you add to it. So if you roll a 6 and a 1, it's actually 5 plus 1, so that's how you get your 6. And then those can keep exploding. So sometimes you have somebody 40 something, they start off with a 13 and they end up with 40, and it's just like, yes!
Really love these over the top actions, and when everything explodes and the story just implodes in of itself. And yeah, that's really cool. Really comic-y. Really love that. Janosch, you seem like you have a question on your mind.
Of course, Micha.
Always.
So we talked a lot about the multiversal style of Torg Eternity. That's something very special about it, I think. But are there any other parts that you find quite special, departed from other systems?
Yes, in any role playing game, you're going to have table variation. You're going to have game masters that have their house rules and things like that. Torg Eternity, with their Infiniverse, they make it canon. They make it part of the lore. So you have these realities that are cosms that are invading Earth. But then and that whole setting is called a cosmverse. So all the cosms that a game master or officially, whether it was the original Torg that happened, that 5-year war happened out there, but this is a new war. This is a different cosmverse. Every game master has their own cosmverse, and it's canon because you have you have a lot of players out there and game masters that are a little reluctant to go against what's written and published, and we want to give every game master that express permission. You can have your table variations. You can have your house rules. If you don't want Isle to hit England, you can hit Australia. No problem. Just put it there. And you have my permission as the line developer to tell your players it's canon, because every Cosmverse is different. Table variation, it can be as close to what we publish officially or as far away, but it's all part of the Infiniverse. So you have these Cosmverses, and all the Cosmverses stacked up from back in 1990 all the way to now, and everybody has their own Cosmverse. So it's a nice way to bring in everybody and say, yes, you're doing it right, and you can make your game your own. Yes, you can do that with any game. I do it with any of, but it's part of the lore, and I think that adds an extra layer of self confidence to the game master. Yes, the company allows me to do this.
While experiencing the game, right, as a fan of yourself, and that's kind of a special question, but what was your most insane Cosmverse where you were a player or a game master yourself?
Every Wednesday, I am either a game master or a player. Recently, I've been mostly a player. I started as a game master on streaming, and then I like playing it. I like game mastering too, but as a line developer, if I don't see how other game masters do things, then it's hard for me because I know what I'm doing. So I see okay, this is going right. Okay, this is going wrong. That type of thing. And we were in a game, and I was the primitive reality, the living land reality, and we went to this space age type reality, a wonder, a tiny little bubble in the middle of nowhere. It was just one act in a big 7-act adventure, and I rolled a 1 and I disconnected, and then I rolled a 1 to reconnect and I transformed.
Oh.
So then I became a reality that's not even one of the invading realities. It's just its own little pocket reality, and it's super high tech that has like biology weapons and things like that. And I went from being the most primitive, a spear is cutting edge technology, to having a laser gun that's organic that attaches itself to my arm. It's just like, how can you go any farther than this? And the living land is also very spiritual. They have a goddess Lanala and the goddess of life, and this science fiction super high tech. They're so high tech magic doesn't exist. Faith doesn't exist. They're social and tech. So I just went from one extreme to another and just go on with it.
There you
go.
So
you just have these absolute crazy things can happen, and I just go with it. It's like, I had this whole character planned out, and just take a detour.
Oh damn, that's awesome. That's the things only in TTRPGs can happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, these
right.
exploding storytelling moments. Yeah. regarding the people watching or listening, who would you say in special should play Torg Eternity? Would you say there is a special group of people who are the most interested in it or should play it?
I think it's open to anybody. It's not that difficult of a system that's complicated with tons of charts and stuff. Yes, there are a few charts like the bonus chart, but it's on the character sheet. Everything is on the character sheet to figure out. I would say it could be for the players who are, like you said, the groups that you might have somebody who just can't get away from the fantasy, who I am so wrapped up in fantasy. I need fantasy, but the rest of the group is like, oh, I'd like to do this. I'd like to do that. Well, you can be your fantasy person, and everybody else could be their, what they want. The person who wants to play Cyberpunk, they can go to either Tharcold or the Cyber Papacy, depending on if they want to go Catholic, Twisted Catholic Church, or demon infested magic. But they both have cyberware, or you have the person who wants to play John Wick and do Gung Fu or the Matrix type stuff, so they go Pan Pacifica. Everybody kind of gets what they want in the same game, and we have an introductory adventures called Day One, which you just start as a person in the normal world, and then the invasion happens, and during the story you become a Storm Knight. So if you want to introduce people to Nile Empire, they might be people, it lands in Egypt. So you might be a tourist visiting the Great Pyramids, or you might be a tour guide, or just a person walking down the street, and boom, this new reality hits. And then you at various points will transform into Storm Knight. So it introduces you to the system, it introduces you to the realms, and you can play those differently. So one time I learn about the high fantasy world, the next time I learn about the gothic horror world. So it kind of can introduce you into it that way and ease you in if you're a new player. A lot of the old original Torg fans, like myself, got into Torg Eternity, so we just have advanced to the new edition. So I think it's open for anybody. If you have a person that's stuck on their genre, they can still keep their genre that they. I always want to be a superhero. Go to Nile Empire. I always want to be high fantasy. Go to Isle, and then other people can choose what they want. So it's just I just love it because it's available for everybody. There should be something out there to fit your.
I see it in Micha's eyes. I couldn't keep him out of the cyberpunk world.
No,
I think he would be stuck there.
I would be stuck. You have to claw me out of the cyberpunk realm.
Oops, there's a one. You're dead.
New cyberpunk character. As a developer yourself, how do you decide which product you're gonna do next? Because I would imagine that you have these opportunities, these different realms and ideas you want to produce or dive into. How in the hell do you decide which to do next?
So what we just finished our last reality sourcebook, Invading Reality sourcebook. So from when Torg Eternity was released until now, we've been putting out the source books for each of the realms to dig more into those realities. So that was easy. We're doing Isle. This wave is all Isle stuff. Okay, now we're doing Cyber Papacy. This wave's all Cyber Papacy. But we did have cross-genre adventures, what we call mega adventures, kind of like adventure paths or things like that. And we have one that you hit every single realm in a story. So then going forward, our plans now are we set everything up, nice and neatly, and now we're just going to knock everything down. We're going to mix realities. We're going to have wars because you have 7 evil people invading core Earth. They're not going to necessarily be friends. They're going to start fighting over their pie pieces. So we have 4 war fronts that are going to happen where these realities start fighting each other, and the player characters, the Storm Knights, are going to get involved. And then depending their actions they do, their cosmverse, their table might change how the world looks for them. So the first thing we're going to do is we have 7 realities of source books over the last 5 years. And with any system, you start getting wrinkles in the system where you have a really nice rule, a really nice rule, a really nice rule, but then when they fit together, it's a little off. So what we want to do is we want to iron out those wrinkles. And also you have all this material over 8 books, so we want to kind of condense it so that somebody doesn't have to go, there is this perk and I really want it and I don't remember where it was, and it's in some PDF special what do I say, on Kickstarter you have the stretch goals and you forget that exists. So we want to bring all those rules together, and we want to have a book that, here's for the Storm Knights. If you're a player and you want to make a Storm Knight, here's a nice book that has all the information you need. And then that Game Master book, like you said, how to help the Game Master determine if I'm running something in Aurorish, how do I do that different than I'm running it Tharkold? Because they both have horror aspects. It's just one's gothic horror and the other is like Hellraiser horror. So they're different. So we'll have that, and then we'll have a realities book, which goes through each of the realities, and then a threats book. So the Game Master has a nice list of monsters and villains and things like that they can use. With that, as our next crowdfunding, we're going to have another adventure that's going to go through the different realities to give you, because that's part of it. You don't want to just stay in one. One of the writers, he came up with what he called the rule of 2, which Torg isn't really Torg unless you take at least two realities and smash them together, because otherwise then you can't just play D&D or you can't just play Cyberpunk. Why not combine them? And we have zones like that where Isle is so close to cyber papacy that the middle area is a mix of both of those. So then you have even a new type of reality. And we want to show that it's not always the same formula, because it's storytelling, it's wishy-washy, it's this reality, and they make something that can be something completely different. So it's just that type of thing that is just wonderful.
Awesome. As we're getting closer to the end to the stream, I would like you, the viewership, to type in your questions before the stream ends so we can ask Lehman your question. So if you want, just hit us up, leave a question, and we'll try to ask it and answer it, I hope. And here's a question I just instantly got in my head. What is your personal favorite plane or realm out of Torg Eternity, and what's the greatest story you ever had in it for you personally?
So this has to be more of a game master / developer type thing for Torg Eternity, because an original Torg Isle was my favorite. I just loved the high fantasy. And original Torg had Tharkold, which is the demonic magic cyber realm, but it was a failed invasion that didn't come out for a couple of years, and then it was just completely overpowered. It was that power creep to the 10th degree. Torg Eternity fixed it. It hit Russia. I have a lot of friends from Ukraine and Russia, and I can speak basic Russian and that. So when I was brought into the Torg Eternity team as a writer, they needed somebody to write some stuff on Tharkold. So I was like, I know the area, so this is probably best. I basically had the choice: Isle, which is what I loved in original Torg, or Tharkold, which was part of the initial invasion in Torg Eternity. And I went, I'd rather go with something that I know, because if I write Isle wrong, it won't be good. So writing that and then being brought into the Tharcold phase got me really into Tharcold. And there was a civil war going on. The High Lord was killed, and then there's 3 people going after the High Lord. And then I helped write the mega adventure for that. So the coolest story is just the story that I wrote for Blood on the Blasted Lands, which is the mega adventure, and then playing that, streaming, and watching the player characters, of course, do everything to completely blow my script out and going along with it, which is wonderful. It's great when when it surprises you as the game master and you go. Or I would look at it and I would tell them, okay, I think we'll finish early next session because you only have about half of a scene, and then they just extend it because they use a Destiny card, romance, so it adds a romance. And the Destiny cards, you can add an enemy, a nemesis, or you can do a mistaken identity. So there's all these plot type things. So they're like adding these plots. We'll go with it, just grab it and go where the players want to take it. So that was just the greatest experience for me, was seeing something that I wrote in play. And the very first act, I got to watch Greg Gordon run on stream, and watching the inventor of the game run your adventure. Yes, it's just like, oh.
That's cool. That must have been a great experience. I can't imagine.
Right, that would be like going to a con, in the 80s, and Gary Gygax running your game. It's like that. You're just like, is this real?
Yeah. Great. Janos, do you have a question running for you?
I think the question everyone's have in their head right now is, I'm hyped. Where can I get it? When can I start?
Yes. So you can, a lot of your friendly local game shops hopefully will have Torg Eternity in the source books, or you can order it from them. You can also go to the Ulysses Spila F shop and order it directly from the company. The English language will go to America, and the German will ship to Europe. I think they can't ship directly to the UK, but there's apparently courier services that you can have order it, and then they'll ship it. Also, just places like Amazon, you can go and type in Torg Eternity Amazon and get a big list. So there's various ways to get Torg goodness. As well, we do have a subscription that we just started this year, which is cool. Because we have been doing crowdfundings each time, so you kind of have to wait between crowdfundings to get your next bit of Torg. So now we have a subscription on My Mini Factory, so you can download some STLs to be able to 3D print your miniatures, and every month you get an adventure as well. And it's like $5 a month, so it's not that, it's pretty good, and you don't have to wait until the next crowdfunding happens. You can just an adventure every month, which is pretty cool.
Yeah Awesome. We got a viewer question right here from, I hope I don't butcher it, Biffer0521, and the question is it intuitive character building? I suppose that means that it could be overwhelming.
Right.
And is it intuitive to create a character? Does it come easily, or how would you put it?
We have different ways to make characters. So the one is basically you have a skill list, and you put 16 points into the skills, and then you have 40 points for your stats, and then you pick 2 perks to start off with. But we also have the archetypes, which is just you go, okay, I want a weird scientist. Well, here's a character. Boom, it's already made for you. It's an archetype. So you just pick up the character sheet, you start playing, and then on the back of the character sheet, it will have an advancement track that you don't have to do, but it's kind of suggestions that this, and this will cost this much XP, this will cost this much XP. So you can make it, I guess, as difficult or as easy as you want. And a lot of times, I will just take an archetype because it's like I have so much to do and I want to play, so I just grab an archetype and it's like, okay, I'm going to go with this, or I might change a perk, swap out a perk or something. So it can be very easy of just, I would like to play a Cyber Templar. We have an archetype for that. Or I would like to play an Elf Mage. We have a archetype for that. And so you just grab that archetype or something similar. I want to play a Priest of Anubis. We have an archetype, a Pope, Nile Empire. So we have you covered. Or if you want to just start from scratch and build that character the way you want to build that character for every single point, that is there as well. And it's a very easy advancement. The way things advance, it takes 1 page for the rules to advance. This is how you advance skills. This is how you advance your attribute. This is how you buy perks. And then you just have all the perks to look at or the skills to look at, but it's the advancement part is quite easy.
Great, that's cool. I really like to grab a character and just run with it, like a cyberpunk kind of samurai or something. I just have something in my mind right now. But great question, Biffer. Thank you very much. And we have to wrap it up in approximately 5 minutes. So, Lehman, do you have any more information? What are you up to at the moment? What's coming next for Torg Eternity? Could you talk a little bit about that for the
Yes, so I am very busy trying to get these next 4 books out. There will be a German crowdfunding in the German language for the last Pan Pacifica source book. After that, all the crowdfundings will be bilingual. So the books will be both in English and in German. Not the same book, but we'll offer both books at the same time. And with that will be the 4, you could say we're calling it Torg 1.5, kind of like D&D 1 or 3.5, because it is an ironing out of rules just to make sure that everything stacks properly. So we'll have those 4 books, a book for the players, a book for the game master, a book just explaining the different realities. So after you read that book, you'll know what reality you'll want or what that reality actually is, because people hear Tharcold and you're like, what's that? I don't understand what that is. Well, you read the reality section, now you know what that reality is. And then the threats books, which just gives the game master a lot of different basic threats that they can use, iconic threats and things like that. Plus the adventure that's going to kick off year 2 of the war, because this is a war, so it needs to advance. You can't just be at the invasion. So the mega adventure here is called Fractures of Shadow and Light. So that will show how year 1 becomes year 2. So that's our plans, and that's what I'm working on.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Do you have any last words, Lehman, for the viewership? Anything you want to add at the closure of our little conversation here?
Just if you're interested in something different, don't be afraid of the cards. The cards can be used as well or as little as you want. Players have a lot of control over whether there's some play immediatelys, but for the most part, players can decide. That, like an example, that romance card, you can do that romance card, but if you just like, I don't want this, you can trade it in and get a possibility. So and another card as a replacement. You can play that romance and you get 3 possibilities. So it allows the players to get as much into it or as little, depending on how their comfort level or what they like and not like. So the cards add flavor. It adds organic playthrough. the flipping initiative isn't just this person has a super high bonus to initiative, so they're always going first. It's very much a heroes and villains. So the heroes all go first and then all the villains go, or the villains go first and then the heroes go. There's the cooperation. Another thing that's really cool, hopefully I'll be able to get through this, is interactions. So you don't have to have just fighting people in combat. You can have people that taunt, that trick, that intimidate. And so you can have that face character taunting and getting a guy so riled up it's easier for his friends to shoot him. So you have those type of things, and that's really cool. That was part of the original Torg that they even did better in Torg Eternity with those we call them interaction attacks, so that you don't feel out of place in combat if you didn't make a combat monster. So you can play again that face character or that person that likes to intimidate or trick. Hey, look over there, throw sand in your eyes type thing, and make it so that your allies can do better. So that's just a really, really cool aspect. So give Torg Eternity a chance. It's really great if you have people in your group that all want to play different genres. It's very cinematic. In the past, I've had multiple groups going at the same time, and I just had it like spin-off TV series. So you have all your CSIs. So I'd have this Storm Knight, and one of my players from this group would say, "Hey, can I play with the other group?" Well, they're the special guest star. So it works really, really good. In that TV series or movies where you start, having your combinations. So it's just
That's cool.
really, really cool.
Yeah, awesome. I'm really looking forward to play my samurai cyberpunk character. I'm really hyped for it. Just gonna look it up and quickly generate one. Well, thank you very much, Lehman. At this point, we got to wrap it up. It was a pleasure talking to you about Torg Eternity. We are really looking forward to play a little game of ours and do a cinematic stuff with our play group, I guess, Janos.
Of course.
I have to bring you to my cyberpunk world.
Yeah.
Janos, do you have any last words for the stream? This is our last block, so that's your chance to, tell the world your last words. What do you want to tell them?
Not much. Just thank you everyone that we had the opportunity to do this. Thanks Lehman for the last talk, and thanks to the other guys that we interviewed before you, of course. And thanks to Gary Con for having us. I have to get my money and buy a lot of stuff now.
Darn it. Thank you
And
very much.
I hope everyone too. So
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Go buy that stuff. Thank you very much, Janos, for joining me in on this endeavor at the GaryCon. Thank you, GaryCon, for letting us host 3 little interviews. And I have one last sentence for you viewership out there watching us in the interwebs. And that would be, have fun diving into the different realities in the role-playing world and stay crazy and imaginative like Torg in Eternity at this point. Thank you very much, and have a nice day, night, evening, wherever you are at the world. And bye-bye, ciao, ciao, and bis dahin.
Thanks.
Every November, around 1,500 visitors turn into true weekend heroes in the quiet town of Dreieich near Frankfurt, Germany. So, what are we doing? We are a roleplay convention with everything that comes with it. Game rounds, numerous exhibitors like publishers, traders, and illustrators, an extensive program with workshops, readings, and panels, and of course, a coffee and tea flat rate. And you will learn to appreciate the latter because we are open for 32 hours. If you want, and if you can keep your eyes open, you can immerse yourself in fantastic worlds non-stop for a whole weekend. With over 200 pre-registered game rounds, we are also the largest role-playing convention in Germany. But since we know that we can always improve, our team is constantly thinking about new things, such as our latest partnership with GaryCon in the US, or our online events on Twitch and Discord to which the entire world is invited. Curious? Then join us in November.
Let's see you get out of this. Blast it! This is not Die, die! This time you will fall before my might. Come on. Yes!